250 participants. In the past, the organizers have worked and will continue to work with the Conservation Commission to ensure that the trails are suitable for the race and then restored again after the race. They'll have porta potties delivered before the race, and they'll be picked up Monday following the race. They'll be placed at the Country Brook parking area on Orchard Road. They plan to notify the neighbors and coordinate with the police department and the town risk manager as they have previously done. And parking will be directed for participants on Linden and Summitwood drives. Observers will also be able to park in the other parking areas at park entrances throughout the park areas. They have, and in your packet is also COVID-19 guidelines that they have worked with DECD to put together to have a safe race. There were no reported issues in the past, and the Conservation Commission endorsed the 2021 race at their meeting on February 9th. In addition, the applicant is requesting the fee waiver for the police officer that they'll be using on race day.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Okay, any well, they've been there before, we know that, we remember, and they did a good job, as I recall, and we didn't receive any, there were no issues or problems surrounding their race, so we welcome them to town again. Any questions from anybody on the council? Comments? If not, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve the request by the Berlin High School Riding Redcoats Cycling Club and the Connecticut Cycling Advancement to approve a bike race to take place at Hatchery Brook Conservation Area on June 6th, 2021, with the conditions that the applicants work with the Conservation Commission to assure that the trails are in condition to accommodate a bike race and that the trails will be fully restored after the race. COVID-19 protocols will be followed, noticing given to surrounding properties as described, traffic management be coordinated with the police department, and the associated fee waiver for the police services provided for the event. This is in the best interest of the town.
Okay, second on that?
I second the motion.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Maureen. Agenda item number 3 is requesting a bid waiver for Leonard Engineering to design a major transmission line along the Berlin Turnpike. Now I'll turn it over to Ray.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is an unusual circumstance because we discovered a 20-inch line, which is concrete, which is not typical in the industry. And we have many projects along the Berlin Turnpike. It stems from Deming Road to Woodlawn. And we're very concerned because this pipe is an older pipe. It fails catastrophically. And as a result of that, we believe we need to replace it with a 16-inch ductile iron, which is the best pipe out in the industry at this point in time. We required a budget transfer in order to pay for Leonard Engineering, which would be doing the design. We'd like to try to do the project this year. And we are looking at a loan through the Connecticut Department of Public Health, which is the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Program. So hopefully we could get started middle of this year with this construction project.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Now we have, I do see, Ray, just question, just the one engineering firm, right? Have they been involved with this project before?
Well, they've been involved with a couple of projects we've had before, and the big selling point for Leonard Engineering is because they've done some work with Worthington. This is the 20-inch line is probably the most integral line that we have going along the Berlin Turnpike. This would be catastrophic to not only ourselves, but to Worthington to be completely without water. So it is an imperative thing that we do, need to have replaced, and Lennard's probably best suited for it because they have some background in this, in the work in our town.
Okay, no, that's great. I just, just wanted to make sure we got that on the record. It's a large contract to do no bid, but I certainly understand the circumstances, and time is of the essence, and we don't want anyone to be without water. That would be a complete disaster. So appreciate that. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
if I could offer a comment, Jim Horrible also,
sure.
in regards to retaining Lennard Engineering to do this work. Lennard has modeled the water systems for the town of Berlin and the Worthington Fire District from a computerized point. And if we were to retain another consultant or go through the process to select another consultant, we'd be paying additional fees to have the modeling done of the water pressures throughout the system, which would probably amount to at least 50% more of what we're paying Lennard at this point.
Okay, good. Well, Jim, I appreciate that too. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I just, like I said, I want to make sure you understand why we're doing that. And that all makes sense to me. So
Is there any
anyway,
estimate what this whole project might cost?
Yeah, it's about $1.8 million.
Oh, it's a good sized project.
and what did we bond for this yet, or where are we getting the money from?
Well, we're looking through a loan project for this. A loan through the Drinking Water State Revolving Program is very similar to DEEP on the sewer end of it. This would be this first time we're doing a water supply project.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Luddy, I move to authorize the town manager to waive the bidding requirements and award Lennard Engineering the contract to design a new ductile iron pipe to replace an older concrete pipe for an amount not to exceed $107,000, as this is in the best interest of the town.
Second on that?
I second the motion.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion
Okay,
carries.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ray. Jim, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Jim. Agenda item number 4 is budget transfers to clear over budget accounts. Kevin is available. What do you, Kevin?
Good evening, everybody. This is the first of what will probably be a few of these. We do them every year. In particular, tonight, we have a transfer that Ray referenced, so that we'll have funding in place to do the project you just approved. The other items are early in this process, but there's some personnel types of changes that were made during the year. With the retirement of our treasurer, we made the decision to consolidate treasury into the finance function and hire a clerical or lower level employee to help with the administrative work. So the first transfer just moves the money from the Treasury Department into the Finance Department. The second one, similarly, with the hiring of an IT director, the IT functions are all being consolidated as much as possible into the IT department. So this transfers funding that had been in the police department into IT. Police will still have dedicated IT support. It's just moving the budget dollars and consolidating them into the IT department. And then the last one just deals with some health insurance changes employees made and funding in lieu of health insurance, which is a benefit that is available.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we've done this before, obviously, so we're familiar with these transfers. Okay, any questions on this for Kevin? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Brendan, you're on mute.
Brandon, you on mute?
Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. I move to transfer $240,866.65 as detailed on the accompanying accompanying spreadsheet to cover higher than budgeted expenditures and identified accounts.
Second on that?
Second.
Any other questions for Kevin or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5. The last meeting, I talked about an Eversource incentive program that we want to participate in for lighting upgrades, and it requires an ordinance appropriating $1.5 million. And I would have Kevin give you an explanation. Over to you, Kevin.
Well, that pretty much covers it. Because of the nature of what the project would entail, it would be on-bill financing at 0%. The intent of the project is that there would be no cash outlay for the town up front, and the money would be repaid over a 4-year period. Based on the first contractor that we had present to us, it would be self-supporting. So the savings intended from the project would fund the cost of the project. We are planning to meet with 2 more substantial contractors who do this work. There are additional incentives available by June 30th. The incentives are still very strong after June 30th, but there's actually additional incentives that Eversource has put in place. So the initial focus will be Berlin High School, and if possible in that time frame, McGee as well. Those are the 2 highest utilizers of electricity. They represent the best opportunity. And I know for several years now, folks have commented about the lights never going off at Berlin High School. So the intent is to replace the existing lights with more energy efficient LEDs, as well as upgrading the sensors. So hopefully we can get the lights to go down for a few hours and save considerable money at BHS. And then after that, the intent would be to do Town Hall and then the Library Community Center, again, being the next 2 highest utilizers of electricity.
Okay. And as you said, right, the savings will basically fund the project?
It is intended to, and I know you've heard that before. Obviously, we
Yes,
had a
yes, we
$10 million
have. That's
energy project where we heard that. This is substantially smaller. Couple of differences here. Unlike the large project where we have to recoup the cost over a 20-year period in various rebates, energy savings, and other areas, this project, the funding comes from Eversource to the contractor. So the rebates are on the front end. We ultimately would have on-bill payments for the net amount. So we are immediately getting the rebate savings upfront and then repaying the difference. So that substantially reduces it. The reason that the ordinance is so high is we have to bond for the full cost of the project. We don't intend to issue any bonds or any true debt, but by its nature, it will represent debt on our financials and other things. So in talking with bond counsel, we need to have the ordinance in place where you authorize us to have this debt. But again, the big thing, I think, unlike the last project, is the project's complete and we end up financing the net amount. We're not waiting to get credits as we go along. Roche, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I mean, you and Doug were part of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in touch with Eversource as late as today. As Kevin mentioned, one of the big incentives that Eversource is giving out is about 75 cents a credit kilowatt hour if you use it before June 30th, and they're in the process of thinking about extending that. But even if that fails, you're looking at a 65 cents a credit hour. Not a credit hour, kilowatt hour. The magnet Eversource incentive programs, we can get up to $1 million. So it's substantial money, and we all pay into this fund, and they're highly encouraging us to use it. And there's a real, I think the difference here is with the type of lighting that's available there to what we are replacing it with the LEDs. There's a calculation that is done by fixture for all of the fixtures in Berlin High School and McGee, and then possibly Town Hall and the other buildings, that is clearly very quantifiable. And so the combination of Eversource incentives upfront and then the true reduction in energy usage by using LED and the controls will pay for it within a 4-year time frame. What I would add, in addition to Kevin just mentioned, we've been talking to one. So there's a list of contractors that Eversource has already approved, but we want to talk to at least three contractors and see who we feel comfortable working with, and we'll give the best deal for the town. Once we identify the contractor, we'll come back again with that analysis that will show you exactly how that's going to get payback. So there'll be another opportunity for you to review and then comment. And this ordinance here it's a requirement so that at the end of the day, Eversource collapses or we don't get the savings, we're on the hook to paying the full cost of it, which is not going to happen. But that's how it's treated when you have when somebody lends you money, it looks like debt. So you need to treat it like debt.
Okay, so we have another bite at the apple to look at it before we finalize, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is you're actually authorizing, this would be to authorize drafting the ordinance. Even
Yes.
if you approve the ordinance, you're not actually approving the project. And that we don't have, unlike other bond ordinances, we're not actually issuing bonds. It's just because of the debt nature. So you would, even if you approve this and ultimately listen to the project and decide, you know what, we don't want to go forward with this, then there would be no money, no debt, no expenses for the town.
Okay. Okay. All right. Makes sense. Any other comments, questions for Kevin?
No, I think that this is a great idea. Maybe, the neighbors will be happy to see some of the light pollution turned down in front of, if they live near the schools. But I'll leave the floor open to Peter because I know he's going to ask the next question. Right, Peter?
No.
I am.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Like, I'll give you the honor this time. Go right ahead.
All right, I'm gonna copy. What
We
I
did
said.
ask the question you're about to ask.
Yes, about the lights to any of our fields that need to be upgraded. Would that be able to be added in, or is that just completely off the table?
You want me to answer, or do you want?
You can answer. The bottom line, we asked the question that the usage is not that high. You're not going to recoup any savings. So, you can replace it, but incentives are not going to pay for it.
Okay.
You want to add anything, Kevin? That's the.
Yeah, they have
line.
Eversource has a very specific formulaic process. And the challenge with fields is it's just not utilized enough to compare to the utilization of lights in a building. So, think about Berlin High School and the amount of time it's used from before school starts all the way through activities as compared to the time the lights are on. There are opportunities for savings, but they're not comparable. So it would be an entirely different program. It doesn't mean we're not trying different angles to try to get the lights upgraded. This is probably not the best way to go about it, but we are trying a couple of different ways. I know, Peter, you've been part of some of those discussions with the grant there, and we're looking at a couple of different ideas to get that done.
Yeah, I think thanks for that. The angle would be the safety issue. The high school coach has complained there's blind spots out there on the baseball field, and I don't know about the softball field, but we're just worried about safety aspect of the thing.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the town manager to retain the services of Joseph Fozzi LLC to prepare bond authorization documents for lighting upgrades, and authorize the town manager to schedule and advertise for a public hearing to be held on April 6th, 2021 at 7 p.m. on an ordinance entitled an ordinance appropriating $1.5 million for lighting upgrades in 2021, and authorize the issue of $1.5 million of bonds to the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making and temporary borrowings of such purpose.
Okay, second on that?
I second.
Any further comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, go ahead and vote on this. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Agenda item number 6 is an authorization for the town manager to apply for a AARP Community Challenge Grant. Chris Edge,
Yes, thank you, Arosh.
please.
Yes, we have applied before for this grant, AARP Community Challenge Grant. It'll allow us, if we receive it, to create a fitness trail. Will be based off of the recently repaved trails down at Pistol Creek. We would need a 10% match. This is just authorize the town manager to apply for the monies. Again, and no guarantee we'd get it, but if we did, it would make a fitness trail available for people of all ages, skill levels, etc. At Pistol Creek.
Well, thanks, Chris. That sounds nice. Great. Any questions for Chris? Comments?
Chris, how does this differ from the trails that are there currently?
I believe what it's going to be is actually different items for fitness along the trail. You'll see it at different public parks where it may be, okay, you're going to do sit-ups at one place and really help to enhance the atmosphere instead of just a little more active at that point, where you'd have things you can do for fitness while you were walking the trails.
Is there a specific place you guys are looking at Pistol Creek?
Yeah, there is. There's certain places that Jen Ochoa and her group have been looking at. I don't have the exact locations, but I know they've been working on finding the best fit based off of the recently repaved paths.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the town manager to apply for an AARP Community Challenge Grant in the amount of $75,000 to create a recreation and fitness trail at Pistol Creek that will be accessible to people of a range of ages and abilities, and to provide a $7,500 match from the playground equipment account if the grant is awarded.
Second on that?
I second
please?
the motion.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? You're hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chris. Got one more for you. The authorization for the town manager to apply for a brownfield assessment grant for the Connecticut Sand and Stone and Christian Lane properties. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Rosha. Yes, we had received assessment grants from Department of Economic Community Development in the past. There are two properties in particular we're looking at. The first is Connecticut Sand and Stone. This is the property upon which we have the agreement with the group out of Plainville, Connecticut Sand and Stone to redevelop the property. They have been paying us taxes on a monthly basis. Again, it doesn't match up with what is owed in the past, but the good news is this will allow us and them working together, if we can get the grant, to do the assessment. Their plan is to redevelop the property, and long-term would be a 15 to 20 acre heavy industrial site that we would have to use. If we get the $50,000 grant, they're going to be matching it with I believe up to about $75,000 for additional testing. So essentially, we're using the state money to help us get to the point where this property be reusable and redeveloped. At present, there's about, let's say, $250,000 owed in back taxes. So there's a lot of incentive for the town to get this redeveloped, change ownership. They would make us whole with the $250,000. The second thing is we would see it redeveloped. We are working right now with the Environment Committee up at the legislature on working on legislation to make this go forward. The second piece is about a 6 acre parcel, which is sorry, not sure what happened there.
We lost you. Okay.
Sorry. The second parcel is about a 6 acre industrial park along Christian Lane across the street from the old Pandolph Auto Parts. This parcel has never been developed. It has environmental issues that we know of. We'd be looking for $50,000 assessment grant on this one. We've had a couple parties that expressed interest. Problem is, we don't know a lot about it. No private party, non-owner is going to go in and do investigation unless they know what's happening. This one, they also owe about $100,000 in back taxes. The goal would be if we can get these monies from the state, we get an assessment. We may potentially have the opportunity on getting a redevelopment for it. But again, looking for about $100,000 total, $50,000 on each of the two properties for assessment. Again, won't be cleanup, but just assessment so we can understand what's going on and hopefully move both of these properties forward. We did go through a pre-application process, which got us to this point. They had said, yes, they would love to see an application on both of these, no guarantees, but I want to say between 889 and other properties, we've probably gotten 6 or 7 over the last decade or so. So we've had a good amount of success with this and would love, with your permission, ability to apply for some more monies for assessment for 2 properties in town. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yeah, well, no, I know we've been working on that one property for a while, and I know we want to keep that going, and hopefully, ultimately, it will be advantageous to the town to clean that up, as we know, and as well as the other newer property that we're talking about. So, yes, anything we can do to clean up our town is environmentally is great, and then get some maybe some tax dollars out of it, even better. So, anyone else? Comments, questions? Okay, none. We'll go ahead and take a motion on that.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the town manager to apply for a Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development brownfields assessment grants in order to advance the investigation of the environmental condition of the Connecticut Sand and Stone and Christian Lane properties.
Second on that?
I second the motion.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Chris or anyone? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Chris.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay,
That's all, Mr. Mayor, I have.
appointments, right?
Yep.
Okay, we have 2 here. Go ahead and first one, Berlin Housing Authority. We'll go ahead and open the nominations. We'll take the nomination.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I will nominate Michelle Yarinsik for the Housing Authority.
Okay. Any other nominations for this spot? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the nominations, and all those in favor of Michelle's appointment? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, welcome Michelle back to the Housing Authority. And number 2, the VNA. We have we'll open the nominations for the VNA board.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I will nominate Peter Zarabazo for the VNA board.
Okay. Any other nominations for this position? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor of Peter? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, welcome Peter to the VNA. Okay. Closes that. On to our town manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to just give you a little update on where we are. I know all of you received the package from Kevin. Hopefully you did. He mailed hard copies to everyone so that you have it with you. So where we are, I'm sorry?
It's under my pillow.
Okay, thank you. So just to give you a quick snapshot, when the town manager budget was submitted, if you look at everything that from the towns and including the Board of Ed budget that the town supports, we had about an increase of 4.4 million. I'll come back to that, which translates into about a 9.8% increase. And then the Board of Ed had $2.1 million increase, which was about a 4.6% increase. The 4.4 million in the town includes the pension, which is about 2.2 of that, and then also $1.5 million in capital requests that we made, which I'll come back to later. And I point those things out because they are fairly large numbers. If you take those things out, and I'll tell you why, everything else is about a 1.5% increase for the town. For the overall town and the Board of Ed, the increase was 7.2, but if you take the pension and the capital out, it's about come to a 3% increase, which is more reasonable. I just want to point that out because when you see the numbers, it's high. And it is unfortunate that where we are in this position. And what I mean by that is if we have a capital budget in place, this is, we've been talking about this for a long time. As we go through reducing our debt, we need to gradually increase our capital budget. When you go from 0 to 1.5, it is a problem. If you have a $2 million capital budget, that won't show up here today as an increase. Same with the pension too. Again, I'm not asking you to do anything. It's in the past, we haven't funded it. So every year when it comes up, it looks like a humongous number. So with that, the way the budget works, I gave you a handout which shows about a $4.9 million increase that affects the mill rate because the pension will be covered through the fund balance. And there are other increase in expenses, such as, I'm requesting a new position in the building department. I'll come back to that, which will be funded completely from increase in fees. Same with Timberland Golf, for example. There are increased expenses, but there's no impact on the mill rate because we are increasing the fees to offset those costs. So when you take a look at, there are a couple of pages I attached. You don't have to look at it. You can look at it later. So the general government budget, one of the things that we are asking is from the Board of Finance is to increase the contingency. We were at 300 the year before, it was reduced to 100. Again, we are asking to move it back to 300. It's $200,000 more and to take it out of fund balance. Again, there's no impact on the mill rate for that. And the reason is the budget of this magnitude, 100 million, close to 100 million, should at least have about a, I would think at least $600,000 or so. And the reason is if something were to happen, an emergency, we will have to go through a lot of different channels to get anything more than 25,000 from the council and the Board of Finance. So it's a safety nest that we would prefer to have in place, but that's for the Board of Finance consideration. When you look at the town budget, another one that I would point out, the total employee related cost, the personnel amount is about $447,000 more than where we are now. It's under the general government operating drivers. I give you a handout. It's about a 1.2% increase. And the reason for that is we have made some adjustments from the town end. There's a 2.5 or 3.5 FTE reduction. 2.5 of that is in the VNA, and there's a one which is the town planner position that I'm not filling this year as well. That was in last year's budget. We have reduced it, so that would reduce those numbers significantly. When I started the budget process, I told every department head, considering that this is a tough year, everybody's going through COVID and economic challenges the businesses and the residents are facing, not to ask for anything new. And they honored it, which I'm very proud of. But one thing that I'm asking is the temporary position for the building department. And the reason for that is absolutely critical that we have superior customer service in this area. I don't want to build a reputation that we had 5 years ago, that when you come to the town hall to meet the planner and the building department, things go into a black hole and it takes, 4, 6, 8, 2 months for people to get back to. Mr. Mayor, you and Tim Brady's been there, been to so many different ribbon cuttings, and people have said, not just one, so many of them, it's an absolute pleasure to work with the town staff because they turn around things very quickly, and we want to build that reputation. Economic Development 101 is to try and retain people here so that we don't have to hustle to get more people every year. So it is an important component. We got 3 major projects coming. The Newport project that's happening next to the train station. We have the John Orsini's project, and there's another one south of Blue Lobster that is also a commercial and a residential mixed-use project. In addition to that, we have seen significant increase in requests coming to the building department because of COVID. Picked up last year, had to do with swimming pools to basements to patios to additions that are coming. And it is important that we be able to turn these things around very quickly and serve our residents as well as businesses. So that's the only thing that we are asking. If you look at the existing wage increase, that means if you unpack the building department that is getting paid by fees, you're looking at a 0.6% or $114,000 increase. It's a small amount. Then there are some other costs such as, electricity projections that we have increased about 78,000. Garbage and recycling costs have gone up, and we are asking for a little bit more with legal expenses. That number's gone up a little. Nothing to do with Corporation Counsel, but a lot of other legal matters that we have had to spend money on. Tax refunds, operating material for sand and snow removal, all the other that normal inflationary type of ones that we have added some cost into it. So that's the budget. The one thing I want to point out is I've given a list of capital items. We had a significant amount. There's a capital committee that meets, and we go through all of the capital requests. And there was a $12.5 million request initially, down to 1.5. And we have a list that outlines what that 1.5 million. They are very important items, and we need to find a way to fund it somehow. Then I've also given a snapshot of our long-term liabilities or debt, which is great. It is beginning to go down. About, this year, over $500,000. I mean, this would have been a perfect year to keep it budget neutral. But I propose that we do in the future, as the debt service goes down and you don't want to borrow, just allocate that amount to capital. This way you build your capital budget and eventually get away from borrowing so much for everything. And you have a decent capital budget that you can fund. If things are going to break in this type of a setup, we have, you see the list, number of bridges and roads and schools and buildings that we have to maintain, fire trucks to everything else, street lights. So it is important that we have something in there. What's good about the long-term debt, it's going down after this year, a couple of $100,000 a year. But once you get to fiscal, 27 or so, if you can hold the line, you're seeing substantial reductions, close to a couple of $1 million drops that you're having in debt service that you'll see in your budget. I'm not sure how realistic this is to not borrow. We have the elementary school project coming. Unless we can fund any grant funds or anything else, you might have to borrow for a project like that. But it is going in the right direction, considering how we were just a few years ago. So I'll stop there and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Just one more thing. Tomorrow is, you already have it on your calendar maybe. It's the finance workshop. The first workshop was last week. There was a lot of questions, discussions for clarity. And tomorrow, the second workshop in the Board of Finance will meet to, make their recommendations and make the necessary adjustments, I would believe. That's at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And it's a public meeting, so all of you are welcome to join in. There is no audience of citizens. If anybody wishes to speak, needs to be recognized by the chair of the Board of Finance, and you can still have a conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Roche, for that. Yeah, we obviously had our input last week with the Board of Finance from the council, so they know what we are thinking about, and I believe they're thinking the same thing. So with ways to reduce and what we can get to, which we are hoping for a 0% tax increase. It appears to be. I've had some additional conversations with members of the Board of Finance that may be possible this year. So that's great. Hey, Roche, just a couple quick things. I just wanted to follow up for everybody, or if you want me to, we had a couple meetings after the Y MCA discussion there at the high school. We recognized, as did the Board of Ed and superintendent, that wouldn't work at the high school, but I did meet with the YMCA again and the superintendent, and we may have found an alternative which they may be happy with if it works, which would be a Willard School possibility. That's going to work there, which is good. It's a great location and a great area there in the bottom. There's just storage in the area now, so it wouldn't disrupt any classes. There's an outside door to come right outside, right by the playground, easy drop off. So it may work out. We're trying to keep that deal going. We want to keep our transitional students where they are downtown. That seems to be the spot that they're happiest with. As you know, the students are happy, the Board of Ed's happy, the parents are happy, and we want to keep that going. And Cromwell may be joining us too, so we need extra space in that building, which the Y would give us in exchange for if the Willard School works. We looked at the house. There's the red house there by the playground. When you drive up to Town Hall, it's been empty for quite a while. I think the garden club uses it. Went in there, but it needs a lot of work, so it wouldn't work out. But so that's just an alternative. We're working hard to help the Y and help our school as well. Get some daycare in there, which would help many people in town keep that going in Berlin. So that's still under some discussions, but we are working hard to solve that problem, which I think will be good. Just real quick, two quick things, and then we'll move on. Roche, the grant, I know people are asking, I know I asked you the other day, but just for the benefit of all of us, the grant that we got from the state for the field, the fields, where does that stand, progress-wise?
Yeah. So there's that ad hoc committee that we put together, right? Peter is on it, a couple of representatives. The bottom line is that we can't do everything that's in the project because there isn't sufficient funding. So what we reached out to DEEP, have said that we can submit a request to repurpose the funds so that it's more focused and targeted. So we are certainly going to do the high school field, the turf field. That's one project. And then the Sage lighting is something that we are going to do. What we can't do is the road project that was put in there for about $350,000, because it's a $1.5 million, $2 million project if you want to do the whole thing and redirect the road with a new curb cut and parking and new fields. And then the scoreboard was another project, but the scoreboard also requires some additional funding to get the Wi-Fi is not available where it is right now. So we have to run fiber and do all that. So the group decided that we are going to request from DEEP to do the Scarglio field, do the Sage Park lighting, and then also to do the scoreboard. We won't be able to do the restrooms, and this is additional restrooms. We already have restrooms in Sage. We'll be doing that one and fixing that problem that we have in there and the storage facility. So there won't be a new building because that number was significantly higher. So it is highly unlikely that we're going to get it done this summer, because once they approve our concept of repurposing, we need to apply for the grant to DEEP. Normally this would have happened first, and then the grant will be awarded to us. It is safe to say that we will, if everything goes according to plan, next year, spring, we'll be ready to get started on the field.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that update. I'm
Yeah.
sure people get asked questions. Everyone think it's happening tomorrow, and we know it's going to take a little while to get it back from DEEP and obviously get it started. So appreciate that update for everyone. Hey, while we're still on your report, I don't know where this fits in, but I wanted to ask Jeff, our corporation counsel, if you could, just because it's been a topic of the budget, the Board of Finance, and obviously with the budget coming up, I think we all remember, we know the V&A, we're having trouble with the funding. Obviously, they're way over budget again, and it's been significantly over budget, right, to $800,000-900,000 since we've been looking at this for a couple of years, trying to figure out a way to solve it. Very difficult. We certainly, I think, first, for all of us in our mind is to make sure that the people in Berlin are, would get the proper care they need, whatever we end up doing with the V&A and how we solve the over budget problem. Actually, COVID did not help us, which is interesting. And if you remember, about a year ago, we gave it a year. I know Wendy and everyone at the V&A and Roche and everyone worked hard to try and, work on their budget and do the best they can. But the numbers actually dropped during COVID of their census, which is important, right? How we make the money on it, the reimbursements. It dropped, and I think the assumption, right, is that people didn't go in for different procedures. I mean, they might have gone and they were home sick with COVID or were home, and so there was less of the census. It has now gone up, I think, to around 80, right, Arosh? Are we there somewhere around 80?
70 something.
Okay.
Upper
So,
70s, yeah.
70s. I think we were down in what, the 40s or 30s?
Yep, 40s.
So it's a problem. So now is the time we have to start going forward into this next budget year to look at a solution. I don't know what that is, but we have to figure out a solution, where to go from here, and try and figure out how to stop the huge budget drain that we do have. But that aside, to keep service, obviously, for our residents of Berlin with when they're at home and they need certain services. So that's to be worked out. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware, and of course the Board of Finance, and actually Jeff, if you wouldn't mind saying a few things about, just really quick, I know you got to talk to the Board of Finance tomorrow about it, but just a little bit about the V&A and Berlin and what we can and cannot do.
Sure. I was first asked about the V&A last, actually March of 2019. The Board of Finance had asked the question of whether or not it could defund the V&A. And I went to a Board of Finance meeting back in March of 2019 and explained that under Connecticut law, every municipality has some basic public health responsibilities. How the municipality discharges those responsibilities and complies with its statutory and regulatory obligations is left to each municipality. Some municipalities have their own public health nursing, such as, Fairfield, for example. Some municipalities contract with third-party providers. Some municipalities provide it through their own V&A. Berlin chose by charter to establish the Berlin V&A and to make the Berlin V&A responsible for the provision of public health nursing services, visiting nurse services, and school health services. And the charter requires that the Berlin VNA have an administrator and have a board, and that it provide those services. It doesn't specify that the Berlin VNA, through its own employees, have to provide those services. But when I went to the Board of Finance in 2019, what I tried to emphasize for them is that it's all about the patients, okay? While we have certain legal obligations as a municipality pursuant to the charter, because we chose to discharge our statutory duties through establishing a VNA, ultimately, it's all about the patients, and the patients have significant rights under federal law. And I told them there's a variety of statutory and common law causes of action that a patient could bring if there's disruption in service. So aside from the fact that we want to do the right thing and take care of the Berlin residents that are patients of the Berlin VNA, from a legal perspective, since that's what I'm asked to opine about, there's significant liability if somebody falls through the cracks and gets abandoned because we're transitioning to another provider. So my recommendation at the time was to have an operations audit performed. That never happened. And Board of Finance seemed to embrace that concept, but it never happened. So in 2020, I was contacted again. I think in November, we had a call, Roche, the mayor, Kevin, Jerry Paradise from the Board of Finance, and I had a discussion again, because the census, I think at the time, was in the 50s. And, the VNA was once again generating a significant operating loss. So we talked about, generating an RFP to identify alternatives that the town could pursue, whether it be under the Berlin VNA model or through some other model. And my understanding is that the RFP was issued and there were no responses. So, the reality is that no matter what the town decides to do, whether it's through the Berlin VNA or otherwise, it has to be done in a manner that protects the rights of the patient, so that there's not 1 minute of one day where a patient doesn't receive the care that he or she has come to expect and deserves. So, I was asked to come talk to the Board of Finance again, which I'll do tomorrow night, about what the options are. But, defunding the Berlin VNA or eliminating the services that the town has a statutory obligation to provide, I don't think that's anybody's goal. It's certainly, from a legal perspective, not an option that the town has. I still think that the best course forward is to engage a professional as a consultant. Roche and I talked briefly about different approaches with the RFP, posting it on the DAS portal, targeting qualified organizations and sending them the RFP, and talking to them if they didn't submit a response the first time about why they didn't submit a response, looking at whether or not it was on the street for a long enough period of time to get qualified respondents. I still think that getting, none of us, certainly not me, are qualified to identify the most cost-effective, quality alternatives to providing public health nursing services to the residents of the town of Berlin. So, there's a way to go about doing this so that if it is going to be transitioned to another provider, it's done not only in compliance with the law, but also in a manner that doesn't disrupt or harm any of the patients that are served.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Jeff. So hopefully we can move forward with that as we get into the new budget year, and maybe we can get that consultant in and take a look at it and see what we can do moving forward. And as we have all said, you know, patient care is number one. We don't want to disrupt it. We know that, but we also know that the, you know, the significant cost overruns over their budget, almost double their budget in most years. We have to try and find a way to fix that somehow without, of course, jeopardizing any patient care. And that will take a while to do, but we should be doing that in the year ahead. So appreciate that update. And that's what the Board of Finance will hear that tomorrow night. So thanks for that.
Sure.
Especially anything else?
Yeah, just
good.
Three more things very quickly, 30 seconds maybe. Just want to give you an update about electricity pricing on energy today, all this energy pricing stuff. But this is good news. We have had a contract with Constellation Energy as a supplier, buying energy from them at the rate of 9.24 cents a kilowatt hour. We partnered with CCM, and they went through a competitive bidding process because our current contract runs out December 30th. And at least, 8 to 10 different suppliers bid it on the account, and we decided to go. Titan Energy was the broker, with another supplier at 7.2 cents a kilowatt hour. Based on if we use the current same usage, that will save us about $147,000 a year beginning January of next year. So simple math, 9.24 versus 7.2. So that'll be our new pricing next year. So we are excited about that. Anytime you can save some money for the town, it's good. Second, I want to give you a quick update on the Berlin High School ductwork project. We will be getting the RFP, has been working on that with the group that we hired to tighten up the specification so that we don't get people coming and trying to build a whole new ductwork system just to fix the problem that was recognized. That'll go out this week. We are asking people to turn it around in a couple of weeks' time. By mid-April latest, we should have a contractor and a price to do the ductwork. So that's good news. After that, we can, reach out to the Board of Ed and talk about next steps and make sure that they're all comfortable with that we're addressing the ductwork issue, and hopefully we can have conversations about closing that project. I want to talk to you about general good news that we're all experiencing with the positivity rates going down and people getting vaccinated. We have been allowing town staff to work on flex schedules. Some of them work from home just to keep everyone safe, alternate schedules. Some with public works and were allowed to skip lunch breaks or just have different times. But we are beginning next Monday, the 29th, I believe. We are going to come back to normal operating hours. The town hall will be still closed by appointment, but everyone will be following the established hours pre-COVID. Step one. Step two is, as we get to May or so, let's see how the numbers go. My plan is to allow boards and commissions, those who wish to meet in person, they could meet in person, but the public will still join remotely because I think it's a little bit too early right now. And also with boards and commission, only those who want to meet in person. They'll still give the option. A lot of people are still uncomfortable coming to a meeting and have, so many people in a room at the same time. But some have expressed some interest, and we will explore that in April. And I'm hoping by May or so that we can begin to open the town hall doors, hopefully, if the trend continues this way and majority of the people are vaccinated. So it'll be driven by what we see in terms of numbers, and hopefully we can do it safely and try to have a normal summer as best as we can. And if everything goes well, I'm planning to have a big cookout for the town hall. All of you will be invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Roche. Appreciate it. Okay, special committee reports. I don't believe there are any. Council communications. What do you guys have? Anything?
I wanted to share that I was invited by the Women's Center at CCSU to be a panelist at an Elect Her campaign training event last week on Friday. And so I sat on this panel alongside Mayor Aaron Stewart and Councilwoman Alma Nattertez from London, and then a couple of student government representatives. But it was a really, really fantastic event. And I was just so delighted to see so many young, progressive women who are looking to dedicate their lives to public service and the political arena, and kind of leveling out the playing field in terms of gender equity in the political arena. So, but it was very, very inspiring to see these women. They were just wonderfully intelligent and motivated, and there's good things on the horizon if this is what we've got going on. So I just wanted to share that. It was a really wonderful event.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Anyone else? Comments? Questions?
A question for Roche.
Sure.
I'll make it real quick. Back to the budget. You mentioned our bonded debt. I didn't see the chart, but it's my understanding, trying to read some of this, that our bonded debt is now lower than our budget. Or did I read that wrong? Which means we're going into that category where the actuaries and auditors like us to be, no more than 50% of our budget are in that range, because we've been way high the last few years. I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Okay.
Roche is muted.
Roche?
I said that I don't have the exact schedule in front of me to give you the number, but it is going down. We were over 100, but we are below down that number now.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick question, Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Yes.
You were talking about the daycare and perhaps moving it to Willard. Will we get a chance to take a look at some of those plans? I'm just kind of curious as to where that would be now that.
Yeah. So how we left it, Mike, was obviously it was just a quick look at the school. There was a couple different places. The place that seemed to work for myself as just representing us, the council and the town, and Superintendent Benigni and John Benigni from the Y, was the basement now, where there's just storage in there now, right? There's some cages and different storage. So it seemed to be, the best spot, at least that day. The Y is going to look at it a little bit closer, do some measurements. There's not a lot of work to be done in there. There's some clean out to be done, but the thinking was that people didn't have to walk through the school, which was good. They got the outside door there. The playground's right there, of course, easy for parents. Easy access to the parking lot, and it was space that I don't even think they needed all that space. So we could even keep some of the storage and wall it off somehow. So that's the thinking. The other day, that was the end of last week. Still going to wait on the Y to get back to us. I think they're going to do some additional homework on it, if that works for them. Just trying to figure out how to solve that problem. So that's kind of where we're at. Still not agreed to, nothing's definite, but at least it was an option that we were able to throw out to them, and they seemed happy to accept and see if it works.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah. Yes? Someone? No more? Okay. We'll go ahead and close that, and the acceptance of minutes for our March 2nd meeting.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the March 2nd, 2021 meeting minutes.
Second on that?
I second it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, corrections on it? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Okay, so now, what are we doing? We gotta get off this and make that phone call for our executive session? Is that?
That is correct. All of you should have the number to call in. I send it to everyone.
Okay,
Have
so
it?
yeah, we should, yeah, hopefully we all
Okay.
have.
Motion.
Motion to go into executive session?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-206, Part B, to discuss negotiations concerning pending litigation, Sonova Tep, Helios Issuer, Tesla Energy, and Vivint Solar tax appeal litigation.
Okay, and, second on that?
Second.
Okay, and we're inviting in, town manager, Roche, and, corporation counsel. And is that it? And the
That's it.
council, of course. Okay. So we'll end this, I assume, and then what are we doing? We got to come back in, right? We're looking for a vote.
It's a phone, I'm sorry, it's a phone meeting. You need to
Okay.
dial in the number.
Right, but I mean, after that, it says continue new business, we're consideration and possible action with respect to, I'm assuming what we're going to hear about in executive session.
That's right.
Okay, so we're coming back, we've taken that vote just on the phone, or that's not public, right? So we have to come back.
Got to come back into the WebEx.
Okay.
Can we just mute the WebEx and use our phones?
Question.
I'll stay on the meeting, and then whenever you guys come back in, we'll take it up.
I'm sorry, Charlie, you can mute. If you mute it, that's fine.
Okay.
And it's by phone only, executive session?
Yes, please, yes.
Okay.
All right. So
Can
we'll
be
go ahead
public.
and, take a moment and take care of that and
The-
make the phone call.
Great,
All right. Thanks.
thank you.
All right, Kate, are you still there?
Your entry is not valid, or the meeting is not started yet. Re-enter your access code or meeting number, followed by pound.
Donna, I just sent you the information again. Did you
I
get
don't
it?
I don't know what my problem is. Where are you which email are you sending it to?
I sent it to yours at town, the town of Berlin.
Using WebEx. Visit our website.
So it's not a WebEx and there's a separate phone number, correct?
Yes, and it should be in your email, and it should be the latest one. I just sent it to you.
I'm sorry, I'm working with
No,
three
you're
different
exhausted. Don't
devices.
worry about it.
Beyond exhausted. Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
All
my
right.
emails. Sorry. All right, let's see. See more. Okay, thank you.
All
I don't
right.
see, yes, I think I should be good.
Okay.
Do I have to dial one first or no, right? I don't think. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for choosing
Donna, hit your mute button.
You're helping people around the world.
What are you guys doing? You're causing trouble.
Okay, Kate, we're back.
We're good.
You're back, Kate.
All right, we all back?
Hope so.
I think we're all here, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Anybody missing, just speak up. Just kidding. Okay, we'll go ahead and, we're back with, continuing new business, number 8, and we'll go ahead and take a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to authorize the town manager and the town attorney to settle the solar energy tax appeals as discussed in executive session.
Okay, second on that?
I second that motion.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. That's it. Okay, so motion to adjourn. We're done.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Folks,
You.
well, thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Yep,
Next
bye-bye.
time.
Hasta your luego.
Everybody's laughing.
Get off this thing. Why can't I end it?